Welcome, welcome this evening, and a very good evening to you all. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces here this evening and to be together again in this space. I'm Lisa Z. Morgan, I'm the chairperson of Fashion Design, and I'm incredibly welcome and happy to be here again on the 7th event in this ongoing series of Black Dress Talks. As you're well aware, and it's why we're all here so enthusiastically, this is a very special space to celebrate and spotlight the invaluable contributions of Black men and women in the expansive industry called fashion. It's a very special space and place, which I suspect all of us here feel profoundly grateful for. Black Dress Talks centre the compelling stories of fantastic Black creatives, and this really is an opportunity for us all to immerse ourselves in the creativity, perseverance, obstacles, and triumphs that define so many journeys. None of this, of course, would have been possible without the creativity and perseverance of the triumphant Pratt tenured fashion professor, Miss Adrienne Jones. Ms. Adrienne is the founder of the inaugural 2014 exhibition Black Dress, which was co-curated with the also very wonderful and creative Rochelle Etienne Robinson. So this evening's conversation not only explores the artistry and evolving landscape of jewelry design, but the power of adornment as both personal expression and social statement. To adorn, to fashion, and to self-style is political, and it is charged, something Madison Moore describes as, quote, a theory of a poetic self, close quote. So before you join me in welcoming Miss Adrienne Jones, although she's already had a bit of a welcome and she can have another one, in all her poetic selfhood, Ms. Adrienne will be introducing our lovely panel, but ahead of that, I just want to thank the generous support of the Jane B. Nord Professor of Fashion Design Endowment, the Black Alumni of Pratt, the Pratt Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, the Pratt Institute Academic Senate, and the Fashion Design Department in the School of Design, including Daniel de las Heras for making the evening run so smoothly. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Adrienne Jones.
Good evening. Oh, that was beautiful. Welcome to Black Dress Talks Jewelry. How do you like the new space? Well, for some of you, it's not new, right? Okay. I want to take a moment to thank those of you who have supported us from the very beginning, which actually started online. During COVID, around the time of COVID, I was honored to chat with my dear friend and creative sister, April Walker, who is here with us tonight. With Black Dress Talks, we've heard the triumphant stories of some of the best creatives representing all scopes of the fashion industry. We've had stylist Susan Moses, celebrity hairstylist Ursula Stevens, costume designer Paul Taswell, fashion model Coco Mitchell, journalist Lindsay Peoples, and creative director, stylist Freddie Lieba, just to name a few. And tonight is no different. I in particular, am so excited to introduce you to these extraordinary award-winning jewelry designers. We have Lorraine West, Angely Martinez, Jameel Mohammed, and Shara McHayle. Now here's just a little, oh, by the way, I just like jewelry a little. Okay. So here's a little background on these powerhouse designers, and I don't want to give too much away because we're here to hear their stories. So we'll start with Shara. Shara is a fashion and cultural entrepreneur raised right here in Brooklyn. Her career began in the early 1990s, leading the marketing and sales strategy of PNB Nation, one of the globally recognized statement-driven streetwear brands. In 2019, McHayle launched Hoops 88 Dreams, a jewelry platform dedicated to the cultural symbolism and enduring power of hoop earrings. Grounded in the spirit of hip-hop, McHayle continues to build at the intersection of fashion, art, music, and cultural legacy, expanding how the culture is honored, worn, and remembered. Her work has been featured in Fresh, Fly, and Fabulous, 50 Years of Hip Hop Style, in the Grammy Museum's Hip Hop America, the mixtape exhibit, and as the Museum of Graffiti. Hoops 88 Dreams has appeared on New York Fashion Week's runway and partnered with New York City Jewelry Week. Next, giving us all the flavor. Lorraine West. She's a New York City-based fine jewelry designer, celebrated for her handcrafted contemporary and fine jewelry that blends bold, minimalist designs with deep cultural and spiritual significance. Lorraine's creations have garnered attention from high-profile celebrities, including Zendaya, Beyonce, Cynthia Erivo, Keke Palmer, Mary J. Blige, and Erykah Badu. Some of her awards include Here We Are Exhibition Award, the Exhibition Award for New York City Jewelry Week, Sotheby's Brilliant and Black Exhibition, both 1 and 2, Diamonds Do Good Inspiration Award 2023. She was also featured in the Black Dress 2 exhibit. And she was a finalist for the David Yurman Gem Awards grant, Jewelries of America. Angely Martinez is a jewelry designer and maker based in New York City. Her work is inspired by the beauties of nature and world of fantasy with a touch of romanticism and the Baroque. Angely has worked for various New York City-based jewelry companies while simultaneously developing her own vision in various collections. Angely was the 2023 recipient of New York City's Jewelry Week's Here We Are Exhibition Award, sponsored by David Yurman. This award provided her the opportunity to create her first exhibition, celebrating 5 years as a professional jewelry designer that year. Who's next? And last but not least, our male for the evening, Jameel Mohammed is an artist and designer born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. He founded Curie in 2016 while studying political science. Okay, we're not just creative, we got all the brains. As an undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania, Curie's demi-fine jewelry has been carried by Bergdorf Goodman, Saks, Net-a-Porter, and McMullen. Mohammed's work has been worn by an influential range of global figures, including Michelle Obama, Meghan Markle, Serena Williams, Ava DuVernay, Solange Knowles, and SZA. Jameel's creations have awarded him recognition on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, as well as CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund, Harlem's Fashion Row Icon 360 Award, and the Fashion Scholarship Fund Accelerator Grant. He is currently based in Brooklyn, New York, and serves as a design fellow at Tiffany & Company after winning the 2025 Tiffany CFDA's Designer Award. Let's hear what they have to say. So this is for all and anyone. So when you began your career, it might have been outside of what you're doing now. What was your original dream for yourself? And what made you transition from your original career to what you're doing now?
Okay, so pretty much since birth, I've been an artist, self-proclaimed, and I knew that I wanted to be an artist since I was a child. I won my first art contest in the first grade, but I also studied the clarinet. Originally, I wanted to play for the Philharmonic while I still practiced doing art as a child. I got Bell's palsy when I was 13, so I could no longer play the clarinet. So I focused on art, went to school at FIT, studied illustration, got my BFA. During my junior year, went past the jewelry supply store, went in with $23, came out with $0, but I had some wire pliers, cutters, and beads, and that's how my journey began in 1997, and I've never looked back since.
I've always also known that I wanted to be an artist of some sort. Originally, I wanted to be a comic book artist in middle school, and then I went through a phase of wanting to be a Broadway dancer. I did a lot of musical theater in middle school, and in early high school as well. And I started working in fashion and becoming interested in fashion as just a means of self-expression. I grew up in the suburbs, and I feel like I didn't really come into my place in that community until I was kind of expressing myself boldly through my fashion choices and just refusing to look afraid of being different, and to be afraid of being different in that space. So I kind of had a lot of different dreams growing up, and I started to focus on fashion as a career because it seemed like a good combination of art and commerce, that you were making like a real product that had a tangible need out in the world. And so I did fashion internships here in New York at Nicole Miller and at Narciso Rodriguez during high school. I'm from Chicago, but I have family who lives here, so I was able to stay, which was great. And I started focusing on jewelry actually after an internship at Barney's, RIP Barney's, in their buying department that I kind of talked my way into when they came to do a panel almost similar to this at my campus in college. And I just said what would it take for a designer to get into Barney's? And they said, show us what you have. And the most resolved thing that I had at that point was this rope necklace that I had made during an internship. And they said, why don't you try to build a brand around this idea? And I was like, I'm gonna be in Barney's by the end of the summer. I'm gonna be on the cover of Vogue and yachting around the world. And some of those, not exactly in those timelines, but some of those things came to happen ultimately. So a dream deferred is not a dream denied. And so anyway, I started focusing on jewelry for that reason, and then I started to focus my work on the Black diaspora and using this kind of adornment practice as a political symbol at the first outside of the Black Lives Matter movement. And that is enough to sort of get me to the early career in choosing jewelry. So I will stop talking now.
Okay, I'll go. So like everyone here, I've always being an artist since I was as far as I can remember. I used to sketch all the time. I used to sketch trees all the time. I was born in the ER, and then I moved to the States when I was 12. And then I've always had really great teachers, and so they saw my potential. And one of my teachers was like, why don't you apply for this Cooper Hewitt program? And it was 100 kids applying, only 20 got in, and I was one of them. And the program basically exposed me to design and that you could have a career as a designer. So I'm like, oh, interesting. So at one point I was gonna do interior design. I was like, that's too serious. I was gonna do architecture. I'm like, no, it's too boring. So I ended up going to business school, and there I took a jewelry class. I did ceramics, but I really like jewelry. And I saw like how many things you could do, like how many techniques. And I just got into working with my hands, and I really love that. And so I did glass at one point too, but at some point I said I want to do jewelry. And then I went to FIT, like I used to go at night after work. And then I did the program, I graduated, and here I am today. So it's been like a process, but yeah, that's how I started pretty much. So yeah.
Well, I am so different here, and I am the baby here, so I want to just put that out there. And to be honest, is that I've always wanted to be an activist. And the reason why was that I had an experience, a lived experience of living in the Brooklyn projects and spending weekends in Chinatown. And my life took a turn, and I became a young mother. And from high school, I went straight into work. And it wasn't until the early 1990s when there was this cultural movement. Hip-hop style was erupting, and it gave me that opportunity to tap into my passion. And what happened there was that I joined a brand by the name of PNB Nation, arguably the first statement-driven clothing, first statement-driven streetwear brand. And there is really where I got to combine resistance and entrepreneurship there. And examples of that would be, we took silhouettes like the NBA logo, and we flipped it, and we gave him an afro and a halo, and we changed the colors from red, white, and blue to red, black, and green. And there was a screen print that said Proud Nubian Brothers. Another example would be the Hello, My Name Is badge. And we turned that into a memorial t-shirt listing victims, Black victims of police violence. And I mean, it felt so good. It really nurtured that inner activist I had inside of me. And fast forward, 2019, I launched Hoop 88 Dreams. Has the same pulse, has the same DNA as PNB Nation, but I decided to go into the jewelry space. I am a hoop earring connoisseur, and so I said, okay, I could do that. And I said, what else is there? You know, the DNA is, okay, let me center the fly girl and her style and her aesthetic. And it's been really fulfilling for me. And I'm learning as I'm going. And that platform is a D2C, specializing exclusively in hoop earrings. And yeah, so that's how I got here. Yeah.
I just want to say something really quick. So the first time I ever got a pull for a fashion show was actually your company. I still have the program with my name in it as a contributor. That's crazy.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
What year was that?
It's like early 2000s, I guess. Like, I have it, so I'll show it to you.
Okay, just show me.
Yeah.
Small world. My brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to be connected to this fabulous group as well. I did actually start out in jewelry in middle school, like Angely. I took the jewelry making class, and years later, my mother gave me her wedding set, her china, and the silverware. So I said, Ma, where's all the dinner forks? And she said, look on your arm. That's it, that's my story. and then I went back into fashion, so here we are. All right, so each of you have a very distinct style. When you're designing your pieces, where does your inspiration come from?
Can I go? So I look at anything but jewelry. to design jewelry, and that's something I learned at FIT. It's one of the good things I learned there is always look for a reference that is not familiar. And for me, I mean, nature is familiar to me, but I always like learning about like insects and flowers, and that's how I come up with my ideas. And then I also love fairy tales, and I love combining those two completely opposite references, but somehow I find a way to blend them together. So that's how I do it. So I don't look at jewelry at all to design, just anything else that inspires me, pretty much. So yeah.
Go. Okay, so for me, because I didn't intend to become a jewelry designer or jewelry artist, my first inspiration is my mother, you know, her jewelry box I used to go through as a kid. I actually lost 2 of her silver bands when I was a teenager, and I really don't lose jewelry at all. I've probably lost about 3 pieces in my whole life. And I think that stuck in my mind and informed me for the future. So one of my first projects that I ever did in lost wax and cast it in silver was a silver ring. I'm also inspired by people, life experiences. I would call them muses. They could be anybody. There's a large percentage of the time that people that are familiar with my background and some of the people that I've made pieces for, they focus on the celebrity part, but I really see every client as a luminary to me, because every single human being has so much excitement and things within them, and especially working with clients that think that they're not creative. It's like we get to go through this journey together and collaborate on a piece, and they become a new person. I see them blossom, more confidence, more style, just from working on that one piece. I also love symbology. Everything has to have some type of significance, whether it makes sense to the onlooker or not. To me, it has significance. I love to abstract things. I love to create a conversation where someone could see a piece and say, oh, what is that? And then tell them what it is. And they're like, oh, wow. And to me, jewelry, that's what it's about, right? It's about connecting to yourself, connecting with the viewer, connecting with the future, because now you have a piece that's an heirloom that you can pass down.
My inspiration comes from street culture. And specifically, I center a woman, and she's the fly girl. And she's often borrowed from, but rarely celebrated. And that's a huge part of my inspiration. I'm reclaiming her for us. And then a lot of it is like recollection, you know, just like saying, I remember seeing this and I remember seeing that, and I grew up with this and I grew up with that, and I don't no longer see it anymore. But I see it in the fashion magazines, I see it on the runways, and it's that little activist in me that says, no, this is ours, I'm gonna reclaim this, and I'm going to serve my community. And because I know there's more of us than them. Yeah.
I love that.
For me, so I started my brand, Kyrie, this is actually our 10th anniversary this year, so in 2016. And thank you. The survival rate for small businesses, but anyway, I'm just joking. The original idea was to create a luxury brand inspired by the African diaspora, kind of in a similar way to you, Shara, thinking like Black culture is ever present, and especially in that time was at its like peak in visibility, I think, in fashion. But I think that there's always, and this kind of comes to like the political science side of my like teaching, there's always different ways of seeing the world. Like Black people have been in like forming global culture since before the slave trade, like since the Roman Empire, you know? And so to look at European culture and not see the residual blackness in it is a choice. And so my thing was like, how can we create a brand that celebrates and doesn't obscure the fact that black people have always been luxurious and have always had their own ideas of adornment and have always like taken effort in their presentation, and that's throughout the world. I would say the other side of my inspiration is often thinking about how different aspects of culture from throughout the world, throughout the black world in particular, whether it's the Caribbean or Africa or the United States, how those different experiences speak to one another, how there are similarities in the histories on all of these different places, and how we're all connected through shared experiences of both oppression and surmounting oppression, and all of the tools that we accumulate along the way, and the lessons. I think of that as like this great body of knowledge that could create a better world for everyone if we were willing to tap into it. Like we are actually about to probably see in this country the ways that black people survived oppression become informative for other communities who are also being actively oppressed by the state right now. And so my work is kind of taking advantage of the fact that jewelry is an heirloom and it's gonna last for a long time to hopefully encode some semblance of what I'm learning about how my ancestors survived and created the space for me to thrive, and hopefully how those lessons can be passed on into the future.
That was a word. So, in line with what you just said, with DEI initiatives being reduced and/or eliminated, what strategies are you using to sustain your career? And what advice do you have for the next generation of jewelry designers?
I'll go.
Wait,
I'm ready.
no.
I have a word.
You should have been in the room just a moment ago.
I know, right? So I got into this business because I love what I do, not because somebody gave me a grant or an award. At the end of the day, it's about the work. You gotta do the work first. You gotta do the jewelry first, and that's hard. That's the hard part, because money comes and goes, right? But your work is always gonna be there for you. And I think a lot of us, like when we did these programs, like the work gets lost. And it's all about all the other things but the work. And just now, after like 4 years it's been since we did this program? 4 or 5 years. I'm finally getting back to my work and developing my world and like seeing, okay, this is what I want for me. Because you can do all the programs in the world, but success is really within you. You are gonna make yourself successful, nobody else is gonna do that, you know? And that's like what I've learned. And also like, get comfortable with expressing your worth. So if a price is $20,000, that's the price. Mm-hmm. I mean, this business, like I have a job in this business, and it's like the amount of money you see, it's like you should never be afraid to ask for what you're worth. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. So yeah.
That was so amazing. So refreshing. Anyway, so I've been doing this for 29 years, right? So I started, like I said, with wire and beads and, very primitive type things. And I didn't have a community to look to. I didn't see anyone that looked like me. Maybe a few here and there, but none of them are still doing jewelry to this day. So it helped me create like a focus from back then because I didn't have any of the distractions. But then 2020 came and everything changed. So 2020 came, George Floyd, may he rest in peace, but after he passed, things just started to come out of nowhere. Like June 2nd, I was getting orders from people that I never, like, how did you find me, right? Because it was the guilt. It was a lot of guilt, right? I give thanks for that, though, because it filled the hole for real. But anyways, it was tiring and exhausting. And that's something that I really don't talk about because my mother always taught me, like, don't show them what you go through. Like, when you step in front of the world, you have to always be your best and seem like everything is going great. But it was very difficult because I never dealt with, like, a $40,000 month, you know, selling brass and silver pieces, and my pieces weren't even priced that high. I had other jewelers that were much more experienced in fine jewelry at the time, and when I told them, I was like, I did a 40K month, and they was like, oh, what's your retail price? What's your margin? Oh, girl, you need to raise your prices, right? So you definitely have to be around people that are about their business, right? Whether it's the peers, like we were back there, we were going at it, right?
We were.
Yes, we were schooling one another, okay?
Indeed.
You have to stay around people that are about their business, whether they're starting from scratch or they have 50 years experience. If not, you're not gonna grow. Like, we're reflections of each other, right? If you don't have a community, look for a community. If you can't find a community yet, you study. When I first started, I used to tear out fine jewelry campaigns on models, product shots, lifestyle shots. I still have that binder, it's like this thick. I just used to collect and just look. Not to look at the designs, because like Angely, same thing, all of us here, we all create from our heart and our soul. But I was staring at the quality of the work, the way the lighting hit the metal, the way the models responded to one another or the object. So I was learning, that was my school, right? So even though when I started it was beading and feathers and leather, I was paying attention to every single detail. So when I got the opportunity to work in metal and gold and gemstones, I knew what to do, right? And of course, there's still like that learning curve when you jump from, you know, that next echelon of work. But that was my teacher. So back to 2020, now I'm getting like emails from like Law Roche and all these like amazing stylists, and they didn't know that I existed, so to them I was brand new. But I had already had 20 years experience already. So I just rode the wave, and I must tell you, it's been spectacular, you know? But I'm in the same place. Now I'm back to like me, right? So I got a studio space in the New York City Diamond District, was always my dream. I took, you know, all the pennies I had, and said, you know what, I'm gonna do this. And pretty much isolated myself for a little bit over a year. And now, I mean, the things that I'm doing in this space, because I'm in a space, Angely's in the space, 2 other amazing jewelers are in the space. We're in the space, the gentleman that leases the space is a master setter of nearly 40 years. So he's like our teacher now. So he's like, let me see that piece. You need to go back and do this. This is not done right. And I'm just like, I'm back in school again. This is amazing. Because when you're the one that a lot of people look up to me and they're like, oh, you know, but I'm still growing and learning too. I'm still entitled to be better. But I have to give that to myself. So I hope that you get the spiel and focus on you, be okay with failing, be okay with being successful, ask for help for real. I'm just learning that. I just turned 50, and I'm just learning how to really ask for help. The most successful people know how to ask for help, and they know how to manage a team. That's when you're gonna be successful.
The question was, right, DEI and rolling back. And I don't think that DEI, it didn't feel real to me because there was an exchange of power. It felt like they were trying to quiet the quell that was happening. So that's one thought, right? To the students, right? Serve your community. Have those collaborations. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't collaborate. That's one thing. And the other thing is that, they use the language, lift as you climb. And sometimes it's not that specific. It's, turning around and say, you don't have to come over here, but I'm listening to you, and I think you might be better over here. It's like giving some kind of direction and not just floating in the space, in the ether, and not knowing what direction to go in to, because, and the other thing is to support the organizations, right? So I'm a member, Black in Jewelry Coalition. They get my dues. Now, I haven't gone to an event, but I'm gonna make my way there. And I'm gonna make my way there and support in a big way. But I think those things are really important. Finding those organizations, serving your community, and in the collaboration, that's where the magic happens. So that's my advice, yeah.
I would say it's very tough to make it in a business where you're making something that is optional fundamentally, right? There's probably a lot more people, I don't even want to say that, but there's a lot of people who want to spend their lives crafting beautiful things that are paid for top dollar by beautiful people of the world. Like, that's a competitive thing to go after, And so whatever the outlook of the society is, you're gonna have to figure out, how can I fit into the incentive structure that exists, right? Sometimes that's, I'm an emerging designer. Like, whether or not it's a Black specific program, I'm an emerging designer because my business is not $10 million or it technically fits the grant criteria, and so I will submit the grant. And sometimes it's like, I'm a Black designer because that is the grant criteria on the line, And both of those things are absolutely true. I'm both an emerging designer and a Black designer, but I bring what I need to get through the door I need to get through. And that can sound like I'm encouraging you to just simply assimilate. That's not what I'm saying. And I guess what I'll say to make that point clearer is that even if there is an attempt at a rollback of formal DEI programs, the value of Blackness is not constrained to whether or not it can hit this checkbox or that checkbox on a DEI list. And there have always been non-Black people who understood that fact. Whether it's that they wanted to market your music because it could be globally famous. It could be a jazz age and score the entirety of the European 1920s. Or whether it is, in this moment, we're acknowledging that we have made past failures, and that's a part of our strategy moving forward, to acknowledge that and make an effort at redressing that injustice. But the value of your Blackness is not just in that you can fulfill a quota for someone, it's that you actually represent a huge, rich group of internationally connected, self-recognizing people, who are a market, who have history, who can come to a show, who can subscribe to an email newsletter, who can bring some pizzazz to an Old Navy campaign. There's so many uses of Blackness and of any part of your identity that is true to you. If it's deeply rooted in you, bring it to the fore. Even if the thing doesn't say we're looking for Black designers, I have been a Black designer who was piloting explicitly, we're focused on Blackness brand from before the DEI era and after. Mm-hmm. And I think that I've mostly managed to position that in a way to my benefit because I was able to apprehend, what are the stakes here? Streetwear is happening. These people feel like there is a huge unaddressed market that we could maybe tap into, that we could maybe build something around. How can I make this thing that I'm interested in doing a thing that can work within the structure that I'm the hole that I need to get through to get to the next chapter, you know? So yeah, even if there is a rollback or there's an attempt at a rollback, you stand strong and present what you genuinely have to offer. And there will be people across the table, sometimes even when they don't want to acknowledge it, they will have to acknowledge it because they'll say, oh, the numbers are, oh, we won't be able to hit our numbers of sales, of subscribers, of followers, of conversions to our website, unless we tap into a new market. And that's the moment where you're like, well, hey, boo, like, here's something you never thought of before. So that's what I'll say.
You have to be excellent. Excellence is always going to take you to the next level. It doesn't matter. Yes, there are challenges that we face because we're women, we're black, we're older, we're younger. It's always something, right? I turned 50 this year, I think I mentioned that earlier, and something has changed in me. I don't care anymore, right?
That's right.
And that is so liberating because I have been a professional people pleaser for a long time. Now, I will tell you that being a people pleaser has helped me in certain aspects of the business because I'm good with customer service and, you know, I want to give the customer the best. But there's a boundary that must be drawn, right, for everyone, no matter what. So focus on being excellent, and you will get to where you need to get to. You don't know when, but you will get there.
Can I just, I think the point that you were making before about studying the ads from your competitors, because they are your competitors. Even if you're a really small brand, you are entering a marketplace that has pre-existing ideas, values that you have to at least negotiate with. Even if you don't have to accept them, you have to understand, okay, this is why they think that way. Here's how I can position what I want to do. And maybe it's, you know, sometimes I made samples that I was like, this is a little bit not exactly what I had in mind, but I don't have any more money for another sample, and so I need to go to this buying appointment and be like, but it does have all of these attributes that you say on your website you love so much. That every product on your website is described as this, this, and this. Well, this checks box this, and this. Now, is it perfect? Is it what it will always be? No, but excellence is socially defined and can be constructed intentionally. If you understand how people grade what excellence is, you can say, okay, well, I don't do it that way, but I do it in my own way, and I'm here to tell you why that's even better.
I so appreciate everything that you all have said with this particular question, because I was speaking to a student the other day, and I asked, you know, is this your best work? Is this your best work today? And he said, no. I said, so why give it to me? Why bring it to me? If this is what you want to do, if this is what's in your heart, in your spirit, you got to come with the best every single day. That's how you get to that point of excellency.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So all of you touched on this a little bit throughout your answers, but from your point of view, what has been some of the most challenging obstacles navigating the jewelry industry?
Well, can I say something? Sorry. So
We can't hold you back.
So unless like your mom is Cardi B or Jeff Bezos is your dad, you're gonna have to have a job. Okay? Always you have a job. You need to pay your rent. That's the most important. You have to have a place to live. You need to feed yourself because this is expensive business. But you also need to, you can't look like a starving artist. You have to look healthy. You have to be healthy.
To be healthy.
Yes, be
Like,
healthy.
looking healthy.
To do your work. And if a job is willing to pay you, let's say, I'm gonna give an example, $80K a year for you to live, work, you can invest in your work. and you can build it up. I'm doing that right now. You know, I'm not getting paid that much, but it is a salary, and when you have like structure, like a salary, it really helps your mind a lot, and it helps you like survive. You have to survive, you have to live. And I think we need to get comfortable with talking about this. Like, these industries is all about the fame and on Vogue and all these things, and those things don't always pay the bills. Clients do, and other things. So always like have a job. If you have to have 2 jobs to make your work happen, do that. I've done that too. So just whatever you need to do to survive and live, do that while you also do your work. So if it takes you 10 years, 29, 30 years, that's what it takes, you know?
Because the surviving will get you to a point of thriving.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to jump in here and answer this question because I'm the baby here, and I'm learning on this panel. Seriously, for me, the point of entry is so expensive. You know, if you make a mistake, it's not a T-shirt. You know, this is precious metals. You know, I'm really having a hard time. You know, and I'm pitching relentlessly, and I'm engaging and educating why it's important to embrace this. Right? There is a demographic that's going to buy these hoops. There's, you know, like I said, there's more of us than them, and they're not being served. And there's no blueprint. There was no blueprint for us in streetwear. We created that category. And coming here to the jewelry industry and sector, I don't see a blueprint for Black business, per se, and that you have to fight to get that mentorship. There's not a lot of spots. There's no one that will give you the blueprint. So going back to, you know, Black in Jewelry Coalition, that's the only one I know. I don't know if there's someone else, another organization. And just the work that I've been observing, it's powerful. But it's just one organization, you know? Education becomes really important, and finding it anywhere, and studying anyone in the space. So I'm studying all of you guys, actually. Yeah.
The huddle was serious.
Yeah,
back
no,
there.
it really was. And but it's difficult. It is, but it's not unattainable, because that's why I'm here. We thought it was unattainable in fashion with streetwear, and we shift and we shook and we changed the whole landscape. Now, what was difficult is that the ownership was limited, and the Garmentos owned predominantly everything, and there was the front room and the back room. I want to know what's going on in the back room so I can sustain what's happening up front, because we got that, you know, and they know that. We don't have the back room at all. So that's what I'm looking for specifically, and learning, you know, craftsmanship and focusing on that. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of difficulties in this industry, wholesale, like basically every business model in every industry actually is difficult if you're undercapitalized. Almost all Black entrepreneurs are undercapitalized. Whether or not we are highly visible, whether or not we're being brought to you by the storied names of what you understand to be fashion, you know, we do not have the capital that it takes to sustainably grow through periods of both extreme interest and buzz. You're undercapitalized in that moment, so you're kind of not fully taking advantage of the moment that you have. And then when that moment ebbs, oh baby, it gets even tighter. And so that's, I think, the core thing, and obviously that is an issue that has a lot of historical remnants, you know? And I don't know what the solution to that is. Like, I think The last few couple of years as I've been full-time working at a much larger brand, have been some of the best from a personal standpoint for me. Like, have been the times where I've had the most ability to just think truly, like, without being like, oh, I had a thought, but I now need to refocus on how I'm paying the rent. Like I had a thought, I'll get back to that if I can ever figure out how to pay the rent, and that being a constant cycle. And I think the other thing is I came into this industry when I was 19, you know? And I think I came in when like teen entrepreneurship was like very hot in America. Everyone was like, who's the next teen who can get VC backed and change the world and whatever? And so I was kind of signing up for that. And I think with that is a certain amount of hubris that you're like, whatever I don't know now, I'm sure I can learn on the way and it'll be fine, you know? And I'm now in a position to know that like, I started, and I think it's true for most people, especially in jewelry, that a lot of people start in very informal ways, but just having the ability to work within a brand with established processes, an established perspective on what made sense in the market, practices to preserve that savoir-faire into the future. It made me understand how much I didn't know when I thought that I was acting at like the peak of like of knowledge and wisdom in the industry. And so I think, you know, it's hard to upend. If we could figure out how to give Black jewelers capital, then we could probably figure out how to give Black America capital. But I don't know. Black jewelers are probably coming downstream of like a much bigger project. But I think that there are other kinds of capital, like genuine knowledge, like absolute, like not I figured it out based on a little bit of market research and I'm like learning day by day based on my original hypotheses, but like no. We have an established process because we tried this 18 times over several decades and it didn't work 18 or 17 of those 18 times. So we don't need to try that again. Like having true knowledge of what has happened in the history of your industry, what's possible, what's worked, what hasn't worked, how it worked on a deep, intricate level, that to me I feel like is the seed of at least increased market value, like the ability to kind of play at just a different game of capital accumulation from knowledge and hopefully into tangible material value. But that is, you know, we are pioneers, so TBD on how that goes.
Yes, yes. We are pioneers, right? I think what happens when we get in rooms together, a lot of us emerging designers in this space, particularly fine jewelry, right? So I've been doing this 29 years, but not the same thing, right? So for a certain amount of years, I did, you know, fashion jewelry. Then I started working with sterling silver. Then I started working with brass and copper. I couldn't afford gold, so I bought a polishing machine and I learned how to polish really well. That's why I know how to polish really well, right? I know how to polish well.
Specialize.
Okay, and let's talk about real quick about polishing. You can do everything. You can set the stones, you can have this great design. If your polishing is not good, that design is not good. That is the final, that's the cherry on top. You need that, right? But one thing we didn't talk about is sales. And it's very important, sales are so important. Sales are king. And I think in this realm that we're in with the grants and the loans and all these things, some of the younger generation thinks like, okay, this is going to sustain, it's not sustainable. A grant is usually used for a particular funding in your business to accelerate you to the next level in a particular area, right? So sales is what's going to sustain you. So if you want to get more sales, you have to become a better salesperson, a really great salesperson. You have to have the courage, right? I'll give you a quick story. Last year, I hit a wall where it was really slow. And what I do is completely pays my bills, right? And I was very reliant on custom orders, the fine jewelry orders, it's kind of slow. I said, you know what am I gonna do? I have to take care of the next 3 months. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop selling brass because I'm kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm doing all this fine jewelry, high jewelry, and it's what I wanna do. It makes my heart sing. let me just stop selling brass. Let me take the leap. So remember, 29 years. So now I'm in this new realm. I'm in this transition. So it's actually a blessing that I'm still new, even though I'm old, right? So that's what we want to do. Like, we want to renew the business constantly. Because she said, I'm the baby. She's just, a couple years older than me. But she looks amazing, right? But I'm saying, she's saying she's a baby.
I'm the eldest.
She's the eldest. I'm second, and the rest,
I'm
right?
the eldest.
In the game.
In the game.
In the game. I put that together too. I was like,
But no, but in this sector, no, because I have to give respect where respect is due. You know what I mean? I have some years. I have some decades.
But listen. She had an exhibition. Her work was in the museum at FIT. I was checking her out. Like, I'm trying to be there next. You know what I mean? So we constantly get to learn. That goes to the question that's coming soon. That we have to be learning from each other. We can't look at each other like, oh, you've been doing this less, you've been doing this more. There's something to learn. I learned, and now I'm listening more because I can talk, and I can give unsolicited advice, and I'm learning now. You know what? It's my time. It's my time to cash my chips in. I want to get, right? Because I'm always going to give. That's just who I am. I can't help it. I can't hold it back. Actually, I have to learn how to hold it back sometimes. So, learning the business as well as cultivating your craft, those two things work hand in hand. They cannot live without one another. They have to live and coexist. And for you, you have to figure out how that's going to happen for you. We can't even tell you that because everyone's story is so unique. So different, yeah. If we didn't have this lived experience, we wouldn't be where we are right now. So give yourself a chance and live and enjoy.
enjoy.
I love that. Like one of the things that I learned like with fine jewelry is fine jewelry is like a serious business because yes, it's creative, but it's also like we're working with gold. Gold is $5,000 in the market. Silver is up to. I do a lot of work in silver, so it's like I know people say, oh, it's too expensive. How are we gonna survive? But honestly, I don't think we should limit ourselves. Prices are gonna go up or down. So that means what we do is valuable, whether it is the design that we do, or the materials that we use, or the gemstones that we choose. I think it's all about being responsible with your money. You can do 3 pieces in fine jewelry, and that could be like a whole world for you. That could be a collection, and you can go from there and then do more things. You don't have to make 100 things. You can do 5 pieces, and you have a collection.
And it's easier to build a business around fewer styles because you actually have to do less marketing. Every time that you market or you introduce a new style, you're at the bottom of awareness. You're putting yourself back at the bottom. Whereas if you actually, the true contemporary jewelry brands that are winning, independent, Spinelli Kilcolin, Pamela Love, Pamela Love a little bit less so, but Spinelli Kilcolin, a hero piece. A piece that is recognizable from across the room, an interesting enough design that you can make in enough different iterations that you can still save on development costs, you can save on marketing costs of what it costs to shoot and introduce a new concept, and hopefully you can start to build a reputation for what is your brand. It needs to be a piece that is recognizable. And I didn't understand that about fashion, about jewelry, because I was coming from fashion and thinking about trend cycles, new conceptual directions, we need a new look as often as I can afford to make one, And really the business of jewelry is the business, not just the art practice of jewelry, but the business of jewelry is establishing key hero items that can be sellable for the next 50 years and finding a way to carefully manage the reputation of those styles, add enough, that it's still recognizable, but still exciting, and hopefully you're not going 100% back to the drawing board every time, and you're managing, to Lorraine's point, down to the 1/10 of a millimeter, perhaps, to make sure that this motif that your brand is now recognizable for is actually represented consistently across all of the products that you make with it.
Also, that lady Solange with the hot lips. those rings, the hot lips.
Oh, Solange Asghari, yeah.
Yeah, she is like, she has like 500 of those rings now. And he starts with one ring, and he's a lip, the hot lips, and now he has like 100 colors.
Or the hamburger,
Yeah.
or the, you know, it's jewelry is very items based. You know, like, is this a hit item? Can you make this a business out of this hit item?
Can I ask a question really quick?
Yes.
Everybody has a claim to fame, right? So once you recognize what that piece is, you go hard in the paint with that.
Yes.
And you do it in different metal ways, different sizes, different gemstone colorways. Then you create the cousins, the family.
Yes.
And it just is never ending from that original ethos. So everything is there. Your identity is within what you're trying to say through that piece, and just focus on that. Don't look at other people and what they're doing. Look at other people for what they're doing, so you know you can say, you know what, I'm doing something different. But don't copy other people, because then it's not you. We don't need two of the same. We need one of one. So be a one of one.
Yes.
Ready?
What's next?
As creatives, navigating the industry can be difficult without guidance and support. You've touched on this. Speak about the importance of mentorship. Who have been your mentors, and how were they influential in your career? Or even just building community?
I can speak to that. I think often I've met a lot, so that's the other thing, right? I've met a lot of my mentors through these programs, like different DEI programs or just emerging designer programs, like whatever the program is. And it is, you know, you can have like we're meeting for this program period, but then you find the few people that you're like, oh, I just naturally feel like reaching out to that person. Like, we have a real human relationship that has survived this thing. I think or this specific program. I think some of my mentors have been Alan Mack, who's the COO of Public School, which is a menswear brand that I met through the CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund. And he is great because he's the kind of person who reviews a lot of contracts. And if you are an emerging designer and you don't have like money for a lawyer, it's good to have someone in your life who you can review an agreement with, who you trust their ability to like look at it and really like kind of protect your interests. So that's really important. I've had so many Black women. Like, I just have to say that in particular, like throughout my time, whether it's been stylists who've made a real effort to be like, okay, you're not responding to my emails because you're in school and you're having an anxiety attack, but I'm emailing you again because I really want you to win, and I'm not gonna, let you get in your own way. I've had Brandis Daniel, the founder of Harlem's Fashion Row, an incredible visionary, and in creating opportunities for Black designers before that was a buzzworthy thing on anyone's radar. Beth Ann Hardison is another one who similarly, before like the big kind of DEI reset in the 2020s, started to bring Black designers together under the CFDA's banner. So those have been some of my mentors. And then the last thing I'll say is that I also still have relationships with like Tanique Bernard, who's a PR person. She has her own firm, but I met her originally. I went to boarding school for the second 2 years of high school, and one of the administrators there or whatever, I was like, I love fashion. I was just telling that to everyone on campus. I just want to be in fashion, da 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 da. And he was like, oh, I went to college with this woman who now works at Ralph Lauren, and that was when she was working at Ralph Lauren, which was more than a decade ago. And so because of that, like, affirmative outreach of like, I want to meet more people wherever anyone I meet is going to learn about this goal that I have, Because of that, I've now had a relationship that's lasted for like 10 plus years, and she just invited me to a film screening, that I'm not actually going to be able to go. But she did invite me, and I often do go when she does invite me, because it's a very small industry. The people that you meet, you're very likely to meet them again, and By the time you meet them again, hopefully you were nice to them because the tables may have turned, baby. Yeah. So yeah, just make affirmative outreach, find connections where you can, and don't, if it's really like, if you're dreading reaching out to your mentor, it's probably not the person for you. Like, even if you think that they're valuable, even if you think they might be able to open doors for you, if you don't really, if your body does not trust that person, you know, in a way that you're able to just be like, oh, like I really, really, truly in my heart of hearts believe this person wants the best for me, you know? If you're not able to feel that, then, you know, you can let that relationship ebb. You're probably gonna see them again, and maybe that'll be the time where you actually hit it off. So, anyway.
I can share. I mean, I've had a lot of mentors and, you know, people that have helped me like every stage of my life, like whether it was in school, like my teachers, or people in the industry. Like one of my first mentors in the industry, her name is Judy Powers, and she's a jeweler. She's based in Hudson, and she has encouraged me a lot to. She's like, you know, you're very creative. You're gonna be rich. She will say things like that, and she has never changed. Like she's always treated me like that. And one of the things that I found throughout my career is like you said, if you're afraid to reach out to someone, that's not the person for you. Like as you ascend in your career, there's people who are not gonna be part of that ascension, and that includes mentors too. Yes. And because they're not like, when you grow and change, you're gonna see like who is really there for you and who is not. That's what I've learned. And that's okay, like that you need to have like people who really care for you. So like I had a job, like I work as a goldsmith, and I was working in 20-karat gold. That's how I learned how to do it. I had never worked in gold, but the supervisor, my manager, she was like, if you can work in silver, you can work in anything. And I already knew how to work in silver. So she said, I got the job, I learned how to work in gold, and so when the diamond project came along with the beers, I was ready. And that was what, 3 years later, that opportunity came up. So you just never know, like, one thing can lead to the next thing. You just never know when you're gonna be ready. Like learning that experience, you just never know when it's gonna be like helpful down the line. So yeah, that was like a good mentorship moment that I had, because you're not thinking like, you know, past that. And when she said that to me, that like completely changed like what I can do in this business. Yeah.
So mentorship for me came in different forms. They came in the form of opportunity, where people from different platforms found me and said, hey, we like what you're doing, we want to offer this, you know, you're going to create this piece. For example, De Beers Group, Sally Morrison, didn't know she knew I existed. She's a legend in the industry. She's like, hey, would love for you to be a part of this red carpet initiative for Black jewelers, and we were both a part of that. Where they chose 6 Black jewelers from all over the globe, and they said, we're going to provide you with natural diamonds from Botswana. We're going to provide you with a budget to create these pieces. And also they paid us to do it. It was one of the most life-changing things for me on so many levels. It's the gift that keeps on giving. We're a part of a Bridal Week presentation, actually today. We couldn't even go because we were here. And what I love about Sally and her team and De Beers Group, Emmy, they want us to continue to grow. They're not saying, oh, we gave you this project already, kick it to the curb. They're like, you know what? You need to grow more, and we know you don't have the backing or the support, but this is what we can do when we can do it, right?
But also, isn't that based on your excellence?
That is also based on the excellence, right? Yes. All that work prior, 20 years prior, led to this moment. Then we have Melanie Grant, gave me the opportunity to be a part of Brilliant in Black, the first ever exhibition for Black designers at Sotheby's, right? So what that taught me, what you were saying earlier, Jameel, about having the 3 pieces. You only can have 3 pieces. So I had to meet with Melanie. She's English. She's no joke. She's a black woman. She's like, listen, this is the type of work I need you to do. I want it to be big and bold, in gold, make it happen, find a way, right? I had to find a way. How I found a way was for the first time ever, I asked one of my metal suppliers, could I have a memo? I'd been shopping there for like nearly 20 years, and he gave me a year to pay off that gold, and actually sold some pieces, right? Then we have my two retailers, Jennifer Gandia, Christina Gambelli of Greenwich Street Jewelers, and Jennifer Schenker at Muse by Muse. I've been working with them since 2020. NYC Jewelry Week, I did my first online exhibition because pandemic came, I couldn't do it in person. I will be doing finally the 30-year retrospective next year in person, so stay tuned for that. Very excited about it. So I make sure to keep these relationships beautiful, right? I want to give them value, they want to give me value. So we reciprocate. And I'm able to tell them about the things, the ups and the downs, but mostly I like to share the ups. And I think it's important to share the ups. When you meet people, no matter what's going on with you, right? And they say, hey, how you doing, girl? What's up?
I'm doing great.
You doing great?
Yeah.
That's good. Now, you could say, hey, I'm having a challenging moment, but the first thing you should say is you're doing great, because you want to bring that energy to you, even if you're not doing great. So it's a lot of psychological networking. It's a people business. This is a people business. The business we're in, especially fine jewelry, is family, heritage, decades behind. Generational wealth, right? We're starting, so we're creating something new for the next generation, even though we're not blood per se, but we are the family, right? So we also have to remind ourselves that we have had infinite blessings and they will continue to flow as long as we take care of ourselves, of our family, of our teams. And team members in fine jewelry, sometimes you don't have one team member in your space. Your team members are 47th Street, 46th Street, 48th Street, right? So you have to stay in this, space of gratitude, respect, and abundance mindset. There's times that people reach out to me and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get this piece. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm excited. And then I'm just like, they disappear. So what helps me prevent that is I have a system. My custom bespoke process is amazing. I can lean on it because it's a system. The other parts of the business that still need work, they need that same system. And it's okay to be working through it. You're not gonna get it all in one day. You got to be patient. I'm telling you, 35 and under people, no patience, right? You have got to be patient. Thank you.
Facts.
Every time I hear my panelists, my cohorts here, I'm like, I don't have a mentor. I never had a mentor. But they were all in my head. I would study people, I would listen. This conversation feels like mentorship to me, just getting, and it's being able to be open to find one, to even if you don't have one, to just listen really well. Listen really well and go back home and refine your skill, refine your framework, refine how you're going to approach manufacturers, And even when they turn me down, they say, oh, okay, that MOQ is gonna be 10,000. I'm like, what? I just wanna develop something right now, and please believe in me. Like, if we do this together, you work with me, it's going to click. And I know that it takes a number of years, and maybe close to a decade, where you're like, you're new, you're just coming on the scene, So I'm in that space right now, and I'm just open to receiving, and I recover really quickly. So if I'm not getting what I need, I'd be like, oh, okay, you know, and I'll just be like, you know, and I won't even put my head down. I'm like, okay, you know, I know I'm gonna continuously knock on doors, and even when they're telling me no, I'm learning something.
Exactly.
You know, and so for me right now, that's my mentorship. And if anyone's out here that wants to mentor me in this space, you know, I am open to it. But yeah, when it comes to mentorship, I think it's important, but I think it's also important if you don't have that person that you could dial up, you can go online, you can listen to a podcast, you can open up a book, you could be in conversation, and you can continue to pitch, and what you get back is information. Yeah.
I have a quick shout out.
Oh, thank you.
So I have a quick shout out. So I have 3 mentors here in the audience. I'm gonna call them out. I have my husband, Solomon Boyd. Give a clap for him. There he goes over there. I have my 15-year-old son, Solomon Boyd Jr. And actually 4. I have Monique Mailer, one of my besties since childhood. And then I have Elliot Carlisle sitting in the front. Let me tell you, Elliot, stand up. First of all, you got to show him. You got to show him who you are. You got to show. This is light. This is light work today. Turn around. This is light work. Okay, real quick. This is important. Elliot Carlisle was the director of Here We Are through NYC Jewelry Week. And I wanted to be a part of NYC Jewelry Week since 2018. And another fabulous, actually, professor here, Katrin Zimmerman, who I would say is my first mentor. She was the first person I worked with, ex-OVO, in 1998. And she put my name in the hat, but they never reached out to me. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not important enough. So 2019, I was like, I'm gonna try again. One of my homeboys, Ali S., was involved, called Elliot, said, you gotta check out Lorraine West. Elliot, I don't know if you know this story. It's the first time he's hearing it. So he didn't know, but Elliot called me immediately, because Ali's like, listen, I called him, I told him, right? And I was like, great. Elliot called me back immediately and was like, come to the meeting. And from that point on, I was in, right? And he's that person, I can call him, we could talk about life, we could talk about business, we could talk about art, but we both have come out of the mud in so many instances and been there to support one another, so very important. Very, very important.
So I'm going to put in my 2 cents about mentorship. Because when I speak to the students about it, I think the word mentor scares them, because it's like seeing, you know, the great God of design on the mountain, and how do I go face that person? So what I always do, what my mom taught me, everywhere you go, make a friend. And those people out here who know me know I live by that. And when I decide you are going to be my friend, you're in. You are in. And so if you look at it in those terms, because Black Dress came from one of my greatest mentors, Clara Branch at FIT. I took what she built on, and she made it so important. And again, it was about community. So when Martin Luther King was assassinated, she started the Soul Club at FIT. And then that turned into the Soul Fashion Show. And that's where I came in as a designer. And she showed me and taught me about black creatives under the umbrella of fashion, which I thought I had a great knowledge of. And she had these scrapbooks of these people I had never heard of who were doing amazing things. And when I first brought the idea of Black Dress here, I won't even tell you how many no's. I got more no's than I have rings on my finger. It's a lot. But it was so important to me, and if you really want me, get me started, tell me no. Tell me no, and I'm like, I just need a toe in that door, and then I'm all over this. So that came from mentorship, and I have so many other mentors. The woman that was responsible for bringing me to Pratt, I'm teaching. What are you talking about teaching? I'm a fashion designer. I can't teach. I've made a career out of being here from a mentor. So find that community, and you can start building your community while you're here in school. I have friends that I went to college with, and we're still thick as thieves, you know? But I stand by that. Everywhere I go, like, I've known Elliot via social media. We are actually meeting for the first time tonight. That's my friend. Okay? So you have to be open because there are people out there with great knowledge. And in order for you to be able to make this and create that goal of excellence, you've got to be open. You've got to be willing to put yourself out there. And sometimes it doesn't work, you know? Just like Jameel said, sometimes it's not the right person. But you will feel that. And you'll be like, okay. But that's one time out of 20. So if the other 20 times you've made a friend, now you got a whole community. You got a whole community. So don't leave that out. Don't forget how important that is. And on that note, because we got people who got stuff to say, so we're going to pass the mic out to the audience and open it up for the Q&A. So you hold this. Where's my mic runner?
We did it.
I just want to get the opportunity to say thank you so much.
Thank
because
you.
this was so much more, and I was really expecting a lot, but I cannot thank you enough for the gems that you have dropped here today, and I hope there's the students that did come go out and tell somebody what they missed tonight. Questions?
Hi, my name is Troy, and I teach here in the fashion design school with Adrian. And as you guys were speaking, some thoughts came into my mind, and I know I think you mentioned the De Beers family. How do you guys? What structures do you have in place to sort of police ethical sourcing of stones and materials?
Well, we all know that De Beers Group has a history. The beautiful thing about today is that De Beers Group and many organized mining companies, they have changed their structure. And I know for sure De Beers Group, they give back. So they have a partnership with Botswana. And it's a 50-50 partnership. Actually, I think Botswana has a little bit more now. And everything is regulated. Because I actually went to the mine, so I got to see it with my own eyes, that without diamonds, Botswana would not exist, basically. So it's up to us as designers and also consumers to support and understand provenance. I'm still learning, but there's things that I've learned that I had no clue about because we hear about blood diamonds and different things. And there are some, it's very little now, it's like under 2%. In the world. And when that happens, it's because it's unregulated. So some of the people that have some picks and different things, they go out there with their family and they try to find whether it's gold or diamonds or other colored gemstones, knowing the risk. Sometimes they don't know the risk. Sometimes that's all they have, so they're just taking a chance. So I hope that helps answer the question. But it's also, you can Google things and you can go to their websites and see there's extensive information on provenance and how it gives back.
I would also say that I see an increase in like desire for lab-grown diamonds in general, which I think
That's a whole nother
it
conversation.
raises another question about like what do we mean by ethical materials, you know? I think in general people are more trending toward lab-grown. I think that they want to because their identification with like of the risk of like an unethical stone is in the mining sector, you know, is in human rights exploitation, because that has been the history of resource extraction. And at the same time, I'm like, I don't really have a personal preference between mined and natural stones. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would be really mad to hear me say that, but I ultimately feel like I'm serving the customer. When I make my own stones, they are from natural diamonds. When I make my own jewelry, just because I think it has a longer history. I think the other thing that I would say is that like, we are very, very, very small companies. We don't really know. Like, we're being told things by much, much, much larger companies who we hope we can rely on our much larger government to police, you know? But I can't absolutely say that I know the provenance of every stone that I've worked with, or that I like to the degree that a company who has an actual testing laboratory inside their company and like employs chemists do. But that's just not a realistic
And that
possibility
also comes
for
from a
business of our
choice.
scale.
That's a choice,
Yes.
right? Like, I'm not going to show my customer a stone that doesn't have a provenance of some sort, whether it's GIA, IGI, things like that.
But should GIA be in on the job? Like, you know, that's what I'm
Right.
saying, is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like,
yeah.
ultimately we are trusting agencies that certify things. Should there be a story 20 years from now that those agencies were all in on the scam, we will be, you know, like.
No, it's true.
Yeah. I also like, there's like the diamond side and there's also the color gemstone side, which is a whole nother world. Like rubies is one
Sometimes
world.
worse than diamonds.
Yes. Emeralds is a whole nother world. Sapphires is a whole nother world because there's like 7 sapphire colors. I work with opals, and I work with a guy who owns a mine in Australia, so that's a connection I have. And I've been building that relationship for years, and he really wants to help like designers like us. Those are the people you want to work with. And he knows exactly where that stuff comes from because he's the one mining it with his people. So you can find people like that, but like, you know, like he said, like Lorraine said, you're not gonna know every single thing of that stone. Unless you go yourself to Montana and you get some sapphires yourself and you cut them yourself you're gonna have somebody cut it somewhere, maybe in Thailand or whatever, but you're not gonna know everything, but I try my best because I like working with really unique gemstones. And the people that mine those is usually small artisanal miners. So it's really up to you. That's what I like to do. That's a way for me to give back, but it's really up to you. And then there's the metal side of things. Like, do we know where all the metal comes from? Yeah. Do we know where all the silver is coming from? So it's like we just work it out as we go, really. Yeah.
Hi, hi, Renze. I'm a creative consultant that works primarily with creatives and increase their revenue. You all models and business models are looking back on your careers. What would you say you advise creatives to kind of focus on and revenue models? So you all talked about like D2C, direct to consumer. I don't know if you all have buyers.
I think the best model, like, I think there is a distinction between jewelers and jewelry designers that's a little bit artificial at a certain scale. Like, the idea of a jewelry designer is someone who employs jewelers, right, who do the like hands-on craftsmanship. But the historical model of a jeweler is like a guy in your local neighborhood who can make you what you want. You put some money down. They don't have a huge amount of liquid capital, that they're investing into new collections and inventory that's sitting around on shelves. They're like a bespoke manufacturer. They are small scale, and they work for like a community of people that can naturally grow and expand over time. If you don't have millions of dollars and like a strong like investment hypothesis for why your business is going to cut through, I almost don't think that it makes sense to start off trying to be like, we're going to have 10 SKUs a year, and we're going to have really deep inventory in all of those, and we're going to go to D2C, because you have no idea if any of that stuff is going to sell realistically, and you probably don't have the money to lose. The part that is the best functioning in my business is custom, because people come to me, they put money down, meaning I'm cash flow positive from the first interaction, which means even if you decide later on through this process that you don't want to do it after you receive the final quote, or you don't like the sketch, or you don't like the model, or you just don't have any money anymore, I've still made my deposit on our interaction. And from that point on, I can comfortably predict what my costs are going to be. I can optimize for profit throughout this interaction. I think when you are making a lot of inventory because you're trying to hit a certain consumer audience that is actually in the middle of shifting, you heard about the consumer audience 2 years into a trend that's only going to last for 4 years. It's really, really tough to try to nail like a mass play from the start. I think, if anything, if you are going to go for that, I would say figure out what your hero SKUs are as soon as possible, and figure out all of the many possible ways that you can make varieties of those, so that you aren't remarketing new ideas every time you have a new idea, but you're really building actual brand recognizability that's going to bring customers to you without you having to spend on advertising. So I think small, if you don't have a lot of capital, it's going to be hard to get beyond a certain point of scale of business. And also, that's not everyone's dream. Everyone's dream is not make $100 million, or never interact with the clients, just sell to them, or like other people. You can have it's reasonable to want to have a small business that just sustains you and like the couple of people that you really like, and you get to support the manufacturer that you really like, and that's your business. That's totally fine. But if you're going to go beyond that, then you need to really think about, what is the IP that I'm creating? What are other potential ways that I can monetize that through collaborations with other industries that have more money than fashion and beauty and luxury, But yeah, that's it.
I think it depends on the category, because not everyone's going to be a fine jeweler, So in the jewelry world, there's costume jewelry, which can be Chanel, which can also be very expensive, right? Fashion jewelry, usually it's metals, base metals, plastic, brass, Right. Then you have sterling silver, which is considered the bridge between fashion and fine jewelry. It is a fine metal, is on the stock market. The prices are rising, so that does affect our bottom line. Then you have now this thing called demi-fine, which could be gold-filled. So gold-filled is a thin layer of gold over brass. You could actually take that somewhere to a refinery and melt that down and get value for that. Right. I'm sorry. No, vermeil. Vermeil, yeah, gold-filled. Vermeil is gold-plated over sterling silver. Then you have fine jewelry, starting with anywhere from like 9 carat all the way to 24 carat. Usually you don't use 24 carat because it's too soft. And fine jewelry, high jewelry, 18 carat is the standard. It's between that happy medium between soft and hard. Hard enough to hold a gemstone and still soft enough to be malleable. And then 14K is more the commercial, right? So it's an alloy, it's a mix of other alloys to give it that hardness. So it depends, right? So now going back to where I'm at now, the focus is fine jewelry. So the things that I still have to do, I still have to upload all of my fine jewelry that I plan on selling. I have high-res images of. We didn't talk about that. The high-res image is very, very important. Whether you do it yourself or you pay someone, your photos is going to tell your stories. You saw all the photos up there. That's a lot of bread up there. That's value right there, right? Thousands of dollars invested in those in that photography. But for me, my focus is fine jewelry and custom, bespoke. Bridal rings is my category. And funny enough, I was a finalist for the David Yurman Grant. And when I did my pitch, I didn't have a specific thing. And I kind of wanted this global spread. And I realized that, you know what, if I pitch again, well, whenever I pitch again for something, I'm going to focus on one thing. Because I've been so used to spreading the money, right? Making it stretch. I can make $20 stretch. I can make $100 stretch. And it's like, okay, but sometimes you can't make it stretch. Sometimes you need a certain amount of money to invest in this thing to see it through. So I'm not sure if we answered your question. I hope we did. But business model. So direct to consumer, and then I have 2 retailers, wholesale. So, you make the decision. Being in a retailer is great because you get the brand visibility because the retailer's talking about you and showing the work. Sometimes the pieces don't sell right away. It may be a cycle of 180 days or more. So there's a lot of science. I know we're saying a lot of things, but it'll soak in over time. You'll pick it up if you're not sure, but, who's next?
Hi. It's loud. My name's Iman. I'm not a fashion or jewelry student, but I'm a film major, and my friend brought me. And I was wondering, I'm kind of gonna stumble through this question, but I was interested in what you were saying, Jameel, about I feel like as Black artists, there's this desire to go into the forms and break them because they were never made for us. And it was really interesting to hear you say we've been luxurious and even though our place in these forms hasn't been shown, it's always been there. So I wonder, is there any avenue you guys have to excuse my French, but fuck around and break the forms? Or has your time in these industries shown you you don't have to break a form to express your art?
I think there's definitely times to just F around. I will be the booked adult, but I love that expression. There is definitely times to F around, and you just have to have that so that your life is not just a mission. Your life is a thing that you're actually enjoying. That's important. There's also going to be times where it's not going to be fun, but just standing on business of I'm here to talk about this, and there's a panel of people who are clearly not interested in it at all, and maybe even derisive. I was in a pitch, a similar kind of situation. This is years and years ago, where I had an image of the Eye of Horus, it was tilted on its side. It was a piece that I was planning on designing if I got the grant that I didn't end up getting from that conversation. But they said, oh, it looks like 2 people having sex. It looks like, and I was that's incredibly, I will never forget this. It was incredibly rude. It was racist. And I knew that their inability to understand what I was coming from, to see what I was talking about, might have a material cost for me, But that was kind of the point. I knew from the beginning that I'm challenging this Eurocentric idea because it's deeply rooted, And that's gonna cause some friction when that is brought to bear. But that friction was part of the art of it. That the reason that this needed to exist is because it was gonna be so tense to talk about. And so that's part of it as well, is that sometimes you are breaking the forms and it's not enjoyable. It just but the work is in the non-enjoying of it. You know, it's in the friction. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Also, like, I'm gonna add to that, but the way you break the mold in this industry is by being uniquely you, like being one-on-one, like doing your work, like just focusing on you and bringing your perspective in, because there's so much ugly jewelry out there. Like, you walk down 47th Street, the same ring, 3 stones, big this, big that. It's the same ugly stuff. But if you're doing something different, you know, it's the same, 3 stones here, 2 stones over there, cross eye, whatever. So if you do something different, you're always gonna break the mold. Like, we're breaking the mold as we go. And we don't know where it's gonna go. Like, when we're gone from here, what's gonna be left is the work that we did and the molds that we broke. Like, and also, like, I have to say this, there's a jeweler, his name is Jar. He's like a high jeweler. He's like the highest.
He's like a god, lowercase g, but
Yes.
he is like a god in jewelry.
Yes.
Look
And
him up, Jar.
yes, and I saw his work at the Met. He had a show at the Met. And he was like, I was like 20-something years old. It was like more than 10 years ago. And I was like still trying to get into jewelry. Like, I was still doing things with beads and polymer clay and stuff like that. And I saw that show and I said, I can be a jeweler. So I'm in the right path. And I was like looking at all these like flowers like this big with like rubies all over it. And I said, people make a living doing this? And he's like, yes, they do. It's tough, but like, I want to get to that level. And I know I will. And that's the work that you have to do. And the work is not enjoyable sometimes. It can take months to make one piece of those, can take a year. Carving but it's literally like doing the work, and that's the most difficult part,
The one thing I didn't acknowledge in your question before was, has your time in the industry shown you that you don't need to do that? And I think the aspect where that rings true for me is that I came in with the idea, like, with the power of the internet, I can upend like centuries of established capitalist colonialism. Like, I'll shake it up, because they just never thought about it like me before, And the time that I have actually spent in the industry, in the real world, the structure of the world is thick. It exists because there are a lot of people with connected incentives that keep it the way that it is. And so if you actually want to change something, you have to go through layers and layers of people, whose entire belief system about what the world is that they need to preserve this thing that you disagree with, And so it allowed me a bit of humility to be like, wow, I thought I was like the last generation of like change makers that was gonna be needed. And why didn't the previous generation just get it all done at once, And the other thing that I'll say is that you do get some increased respect for the game the more exposure that you have to it. Even if you can see there's some parts of this that are clearly wrong, efficiency is efficiency. Like, when you see it, it has cruel implications because of the way that it's structured now, but it doesn't, all of the value of it, you can't leave all of the value of it on the floor when you want to change the world for the better. Like, everything is not it's going to be a revolution in the future. Sometimes it is about redirecting the parts of this thing that actually are good and actually are creating value that I can respect, like the fact that France had a colonial empire, created a lot of high jewelry that I'm like, oh my God, technique, like craftsmanship. I wouldn't have known this was possible if not for these things that I think are objectively wrong. I can't envision a true world that's better until I've negotiated and understood the world and why it came to be the way that it has been. Because if you're just saying like, oh, it'll just be better, that's not a real thing. So you have to understand the game, understand the tactics that have created the world that you understand, enough to be like, here are the parts of this that can change, that are totally not related to the value, that are just producing harm, and like, let's focus on the things that are actually good about this.
Okay, we've got about 3 minutes before they put us out.
I got a quick question. So you guys have talked about being in what, Botswana? Where else did you go? I just want to know, did you get any of your learning in other countries? Like for instance, in Senegal, it seems like they can imitate any piece of jewelry that you have. Have you gotten any lessons from abroad?
I haven't yet. You know, I went to Botswana and got to go to the mines and got to go to villages and see how the profits of diamonds give back to the country. And it was mind-blowing in the best way possible. But I do look forward to getting training overseas.
And a lot of people from overseas are here in New York. That's what I'll say. And jewelry is a very old industry that has been done in almost all parts of the world. Like, there is a tradition of jewelry making in Georgia and in Kenya and in, you know, Eastern Europe and Western Europe and all over the world, Russia.
Italy.
Yeah.
And
India.
they come, you know, to New York, to 47th Street. So,
Yes, they're right there.
So go lean in and, like, you know, you can see that the Indian jewelers and how they have different pieces in their archives and they have different stones and different cutting techniques and all of that stuff. We do live in a very internationally connected world. So
Koreans too, Latin people. There's a lot of Latin people in the jewelry business that speak Spanish. So if you speak Spanish, that's a good thing. You can communicate. So, like like he said, yeah, like they're all on 47th Street. There's like people who make watches. Like, it's hard to find them, but if you ask enough people, you'll find those people. There's like really good people there. Really good masters, yeah.
As a wrap up, any last things you want to put out to the audience? Specifically, the students that are here. Students, raise your hand. All right.
I want to give another shout out. We have Suraji in the audience, who is an amazing filmmaker and a professor also, a fashion film. Now, I'm going to tell this story really quick, how to tap into your local community, right? So it was the fall of what, 2017, 2018? Yeah. So at the time, things were a little slow in terms of visibility. So I wasn't really on a lot of celebs at the time. I was kind of like quiet. I was doing my thing, selling at, you know, fairs and pop-ups and such. I get a call from Sura and our dear friend Chandra, who's an amazing costume designer. And like, we're gonna do this film called As Above. And this film is so magical. You have to look it up, right? And if I didn't do that film, if I didn't say yes to that film, I would not be sitting here right now. Keep it real. Sora had a few $100. She said, this is the budget. I was able to get the material. I could make things in brass. It took me 3 days to come up with this vision. I read the treatment, this mystical, magical vision of this woman and her higher self, lower self, and all these, it's a dance she's going through. So the costumes are changing, the cast is changing because she's changing, right? And this was the first time that my jewelry was in a music video, like solely just my jewelry was a part of it, right? Invited me to the set, got to see her film. It was incredible. The earrings I created, the abstract palette earrings that you saw up there, I created for her film, right? If I didn't do that, I would not be sitting here, because when Melanie Grant came and said, girl, you need to take those abstract palette earrings and put them in gold,
Yes.
she gave me a chance. We got to give each other a chance. We can't say, oh, it has to be this like super famous or popular person. It could be anybody, that person, it could be your brother, your sister, anybody, right? So give people a chance that do great work.
And where did those palette earrings end up, Lorraine?
Palette earrings, Beyonce and Black is King. Yes. 2 years later. So, thank you. My pleasure.
For coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. We do this every semester.
Yes.
We'll be back again in November with another great team of creatives. Thank you so much.
Can we do a selfie? Like,